everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you're doing well. Back at it with another video. I want to take a early look at this incoming new moon in Cancer. If you're new to my channel and you want to see more of my content, make sure you click the button below and you're subscribed. We've got videos coming out every couple days on the channel. Horoscopes, new moon reports, full moons, and a little bit of something in between. I hope you guys are enjoying your Thursday, and I'm actually really interested in kind of diving into this because I've been looking at this new moon for the last couple months, and I'm like, that's when shift hits the fan, and things really begin to change. So let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on with this new moon in Cancer. It will be taking place on July 17th, 2023. And obviously, depending on where you are in the world, you may have to adjust your time zone, but it will be coming in at 11:31 a.m. Pacific time and 2:21 p.m. Eastern time at 24 degrees of Cancer. So interesting, right? Because Cancer is returning back to, I guess the moon is returning back to its home sign. We've got this new and improved kind of opportunity when the sun and the moon come together to really kind of set new intentions in terms of like where we're going. So even if you're not a Cancer, you want to take a look at where Cancer is in your chart, because that's going to be an opportunity to kind of set the stage for new things. 24 degrees is a Piscean degree, so it does deal with things that can be more hidden, spiritual, behind the scenes, things that are more visual. It can also be about dreams and intuition. And we know that Cancer is a cardinal water sign, so it is very actively checking in with its emotions, its home, as well as the past. So I want to start by talking to you guys first about the Sabian symbol. I'd like to read that to you. And because this is going to be at 24 degrees, almost 25, it's a few minutes off, we're going to read 25 degrees. Because we round up with the Sabian symbols. And this is a fun book that gives us a little bit of like an insight in terms of each of the various 360 degrees of the zodiac, some food for thought, and like a little scene in a blurb so we can kind of better understand what this particular degree might mean. If you guys are interested in what I'm reading, you can check out my Amazon book list below. But if you have this book, it is page 25? Yeah. So it's going to be page 145. Okay. Cancer 25, a dark shadow or mantle thrown suddenly over the right shoulder. The theme is leadership. The symbol speaks to the fact that no individual can successfully ignore or reject his obligation to whatever he is a part of. Reality cannot be denied. The image of a dark shadow or mantle thrown over the shadow was described in the original 1931 mimeograph version of these symbols as an invisible mantle of power, indicating an unanticipated or abrupt assumption of leadership. The emphasis here is not so much on leadership per se, but the spiritual stewardship that it implies. At the same time, the symbol alludes to the satisfaction that the individual experiences when he fulfills his potential by assuming responsibility through what he can demonstrate in practical everyday terms. At its highest, the symbol represents spectacular leadership and outstanding service, but watch for exaggeration and delusions of grandeur. The accent is on unexpected assumption of leadership and authority. You may be worrying about how to handle a new responsibility today, and your greatest advantage lies in doing what you believe is best for all concerned, even if it isn't popular. Guard against abusing your power or authority. What goes around comes around. Okay, something that really stood out for me here, and I talked about this briefly in my last video, how that Mercury was going to be really important for the year ahead because the United States chart was going to be having kind of Mercury highlighted in a 10th house year. On this date, we're having a new moon that is in conjunction to the United States natal Mercury. So those of you guys who live in the United States, it may be more prominent for you, or you might just kind of see that it's kind of really touching on the U.S. chart and their whole sign 8th house in regards to intuition or secrets or things that are kind of hidden. And I'm wondering if there's going to be like a push for like, declassification of certain things. We've seen this a lot recently with stuff going on with like UFO related topics, and I think other declassified documents and papers and anything like that. And there may be some prompt to kind of push this information out. But the reason why I bring this up is what stood out for me in this is this reality cannot be denied. Okay, so I'm just going to put my finger here so I don't lose it. I think that's like a big thing right now. I don't know if it's like Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, and everybody's just kind of like in this like crazy wash cycle in the washing machine where everything just seems like it's being tossed around and nothing is clear. Or this is just people who are in denial of reality and right from wrong, or people not wanting to acknowledge the fact that there are certain things that are happening, at least I can say here in the United States, that people are kind of like living in denial. So I like that it does talk about reality not being denied. I like that it also puts an emphasis not so much on leadership per se, but the spiritual stewardship that it implies, meaning I don't think it's just about being a leader and the recognition and the status that it comes with, but the actual purpose of being able to be somebody who leads others, who guides, right? And leads by example, demonstrating competency in practical everyday terms. Guard against abusing your power of authority, and what goes around comes around. I would say that anyway, because we're starting to see that just after this particular new moon, hours later, the moon is going to hit 29 degrees and it's going to oppose Pluto. So definitely themes revolving around abuse of power. Days after the new moon, we're also going to see the sun hit 29 and oppose Pluto, which is going to be highlighting where people in positions of power and authority are abusing that. And we may see people calling on someone or something to step down. And we're also going to see both the moon and the sun, as they're kind of hitting 29 degrees, come into a square with these nodes. And so this is that moon that I told you guys that things are going to potentially start to get a little intense, because we're going to have planets on each sides of the nodes, which is really talking about events that bring us out of the past and hopefully bring us into the future. And we see Pluto square the nodes. So we're kind of feeling like we're stuck between maybe a rock and a hard place. Maybe there is a sense of, wanting to move forward, but before we do that, we have to acknowledge and we have to kind of deal with the past. Leadership is like a big theme that also is connected to the cardinal signs. I don't feel like the other cardinal signs get enough recognition for that. Usually when you hear leadership, you think of like Saturn, or you think of Capricorn. And Capricorn is a cardinal sign, but all of the cardinals in my mind are leaders, right? They are initiators as well. They start something, whether it's businesses or relationships or projects. They also are responsible for kind of leading the way when it comes to starting new seasons. So I don't think it's just about Capricorn. I think that if we look at the leadership capabilities in the sign of Cancer, it's leading by acknowledging the past, leading by also connecting to the emotions or the intuition or, the gut. And I feel like that's what a lot of this is going to be about, is about, people really kind of tapping into where are my emotions really playing a role in like teaching me where it's time to kind of stand up and be a leader in some way. But when we talk about unexpected assumption of leadership and authority, it's like assuming that those who are put in positions of power or high ranking are actually going to do their job. So there can be a lot of like, well, you were the boss, I assumed you were going to take care of it. Or, you were elected into office, I assume you're going to make a change, you're going to do something about it. But notice that the term that's used is unexpected assumption of leadership. I think one of the qualifications of leadership is to lead, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's about. It's about being somebody who is going to kind of lead by example and, show other people how to be able to really show up and step up and be an example, just in general, regardless of what they're a leader of. That's the purpose. So unexpected assumption of leadership. So what may potentially happen with this? Is there going to be a sense of people looking around going like, who's in charge here? Or who is responsible for this? Or why did this happen? Possibly. Stepping stones would be responsibility, accountability, commitment, duty, leadership, power, and service, okay? And for those of you guys who want a little extra credit, it may also be entertaining for you to read 24. I'm sticking to 25 because that's the rules. But 24 being a woman and two men on a bit of sunlit land facing south. The theme is being prepared. Your greatest advantage lies in demonstrating your competency and skills and proving that you're the right one for the job. Followed by 25, which is like, okay, you're in charge. What did you do? You know, are you really fit to be in this position? I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens here. So let's break down a little bit more just about, like, you know, the new moon in general. Obviously, we get this every 28 days, so it does represent new beginnings, an opportunity to set, you know, things straight. It's a clean slate. And the moon being in conjunction to the sun represents this conscious and subconscious energies that are coming together. So the big theme with new moons is new beginnings, right? New opportunities. It represents a fresh start and the beginning of a new cycle, symbolizing an opportunity for growth. So in 6 months' time, as we're getting into Capricorn season, we will see this mature into what will eventually be a full moon in Cancer. But more importantly, also the immediate next 30 days is significant because the new moon is setting the stage for the next cycle. So we can actually look at this and get an idea of like what's in store for the next month. And it gives us an opportunity also to really reflect on our intentions and our goals. So to make the most of astrology, you really want to take a look at what house is this new moon taking place in. The house in your chart is going to be the area of life which you're setting these new intentions. And it's extra potent because it's involving the chart ruler, or I should say the lunar ruler, which is the moon. So we see one new moon in each of the various signs throughout the year at the same time, roundabout, depending on the lunar cycles. I also think about, you know, new moons and how it brings the opportunity for transformation and change. Because the darkness of a new moon signifies the potential for personal transformation and inner change. It's like the womb, right? So we have to kind of wait in that quiet space with that intention, that seed that's been planted, and allow it to have room to kind of grow. So it's also a really powerful time for self-reflection, releasing old patterns, and embracing new possibilities. With new moons always come opportunities for setting intentions and manifesting. So because the new moon is associated with manifesting desires and intentions, you want to do that during a new moon cycle. It's a time for focusing your energy and setting clear intentions on what it is that you want to bring into your life. So you might be focusing on, depending on what house it's in, emotionally setting intentions about growing something or bringing something in or starting something new. So inner work and introspection is kind of some key words that come up for me during a new moon because it's a dark phase of a new moon and it's encouraging introspection and self-exploration. So it's a time to really delve into your inner thoughts and emotions to gain more insight and clarity on what your intentions may be. The moon is feminine in its nature. So, you know, new moons have a strong connection to feminine energy and are very much associated with the goddess or divine feminine. And Cancer in general in itself does represent nurturing and intuitive and receptive aspects of our being. So intuitions might be more sensitive, feelings might be more sensitive, and there is a sense of just kind of getting in touch with our emotions a little bit more while the moon is in Cancer. And then finally, there's opportunities for rebirth and renewal. You know, as the moon begins its waxing phase after the new moon, it symbolizes a rebirth and a renewal of energy. So it's signifying potential growth, progress, and the unfolding of potential future opportunities. So if you're looking for a time to say, hey, I'm going to start something new, obviously it depends on the aspects. Not all new and full moons are created equal. As many of you guys saw, I talked about this in my, I think my full moon in Capricorn, and I think in my horoscopes as well. One of the videos, I was just talking about just some of the challenging aspects of this particular moon. It's definitely not as friendly as the full moon in Capricorn that we just had, even having the moon in its own ruling sign. We'll get into the aspects in a second, but what's concerning to me off the bat is the oppositions to Pluto, which does kind of feel like there's something looming that the new intentions or the goals are really kind of set forth because of a crisis or a challenge, or because of some scary factor, or, you know, like some outside event outside of us involving other people that pushes us to change. And also the squares that we're going to be seeing to the nodes, which are very much also connected to the moon. So off the bat, coming into this new moon phase with an opposition to Pluto and a square to the nodes, this is not going to be your stereotypical kind of like quiet, warm and fuzzy new moon. It's going to be very action-packed, and it's going to prompt you to actually create change. And to do so, you have to pay better attention to your emotions. Now, in mundane astrology, you know, the moon symbolizes the various aspects related to the collective. So that can be, you know, society in general. But when we break this down, the moon has a connection to the people, right? So if we were to look at this from the perspective of what's just going on in the world, if we zoom out a little bit out of our life, we can see that the moon has connections to the general public, the masses, collective of consciousness of nations or society. It does talk about the emotional tone, mood, and overall feeling of the people. And the moon's placement and aspects in a mundane chart can reflect the prevailing public opinion or the general mood of the population. Not enough people talk about this. You just hear like, oh, it's a new moon, this is how you manifest. But really, this is giving us a snapshot of like, here's how people are going to be kind of feeling for the next month. So keep that in mind when we start thinking about the aspects to Pluto, because this is quite literally the people, right, feeling challenged by, you know, global people who are in charge, you know, government leaders, people in high rankings, people who are considered like superiors in society. Because of the opposition, that's a challenge, right? It can also talk about the public perception. So the moon symbolizes, you know, the way people react to events and circumstances. I bring this up because I want to touch more on the moon in regards to the connection to its traditional ruler, Cancer. So the moon moving through Cancer is going to be wanting to get cozy and nest and, you know, take care of the home and the family and be, you know, cooking meals and barbecuing and hanging out, obviously depending on where you are. So there is this sense of wanting to get close to home and family and our domestic stuff, but once again, being challenged. So when I think of the perception of the public, I feel like, wow, you know, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be feeling like they're kind of under the thumb of the pressure of, you know, Capricorn type themes. Now, if it's not just what's going on in the world and the heaviness and the intensity of the world, we may hear more about issues revolving around police officers, people in uniform, people who serve, also older members of society, as well as potential shadowy, you know, kind of beings. So this is like a lot of like confronting bullies in this next month. It can mean also a lot of people feeling very overwhelmed emotionally and feeling like they're being pulled in two directions between what the heart wants and what we need emotionally and what we need in terms of our private life versus the demand and the pressure and the obligation relating to career and work and responsibility or our status in the world. So this is a really sensitive kind of axis. I want to remind you guys that, you know, if you go back in time and you think about what was happening in like 2020, really 2017 to 2020, when we saw planets in the late degrees of Capricorn and the oppositions that we had, these oppositions, especially the summer of 2020, corresponded with more lockdowns. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it just goes to show you how this axis of Capricorn works, where it lays down the law up against the fourth house, or Cancer, which is relating to like the home and the homeland or your home space or your family. So we may see some similar themes that are kind of coming up. Women and feminine issues definitely come up also in relation to new moons. And I think also, you know, in mundane astrology, it's associated with motherhood, nurturing, and feminine issues. And it can represent women's roles and their influence on society, as well as issues related to family, fertility, and social welfare. So I definitely think this might be a theme that we're going to hear more about in the next month. Perhaps at some point, you know, becoming like a hot topic, especially at the end of this year. And I wonder if that's going to relate also to like reproductive, you know, rights, you know, later in the year. I don't necessarily think it's going to come up immediately right now, but definitely with the sextiles and the aspects to Taurus, which can be about fertility and growth in the body and life. It would not surprise me if this becomes like a hot talking point over the next 6 months. Public security and stability is a big one. Because the moon represents security and stability of a nation or society, it reflects the need for emotional well-being, safety, and sense of belonging. So, you know, changes in the moon's placement and aspects indicate a shift in public security and fluctuations in the overall stability of a country or society. So watching the sun and the moon come into opposition with Pluto and Capricorn makes me feel like you're going to hear a lot of people being like, I want to feel safe. I want a home. I want to feel like I can thrive. I'd like to be able to, you know, get into a bigger space. I'd like to see change emotionally or in a domestic sense. But that is being threatened by almost like oppressive, controlling, limiting energies. And Capricorn can be bosses, like I said, job demands, things that are going out, especially in regards to, you know, government superiors. So there can be this sense of feeling a great imbalance between these groups out in the world and realizing that it's becoming very black and white. You know, the people who are really trying to survive versus those who are out there that are kind of dominating, and there is some sense of like control and wanting to see that they can continue to kind of have some oversight to what other people are doing. And I definitely feel like with the moon in opposition to Pluto, you're going to see some really intense emotional reactions. Just in general, people might seem like they're like a little bit more on edge. And public opinion is another thing that is kind of connected to this. So, you know, prevailing attitudes, beliefs, the values of people, you know, political, social, and cultural developments. So to watch this come into an opposition with Pluto does make me feel like there's going to be a definite change in terms of the opinions or the attitudes or the values of some people. And it can have some really significant effects, you know, moving forward. But once again, we'd see that kind of develop over the next month, but it's really going to take about 6 months for this to fully mature. You know, Cancer in general is the 4th astrological sign of the zodiac. It's a cardinal sign. It's represented by the moon or the crab. And just some like things that come to mind for me when I think of Cancer. Number one would be emotional intuitive. Because Cancer is a water sign, they're known for their deep emotional nature and strong intuition. This is a sign that's highly in tune with their emotions and their feelings, and they can be very empathic and compassionate, and have a tendency to really be able to feel what other people are feeling or what other people need. So keep in mind, Cancer is about nurturing and care. So that's going to be a huge theme that's going to come up with this particular new moon, which goes hand in hand also with protective energies, you know, caregivers. There's a strong desire to protect and take care of something whenever we're dealing with Cancer placements. There is this very like motherly vibe that comes from Cancer as well. And it's very home and family related. You know, Cancer or the 4th house has its associations with domestic home zone, where you're living, your roots, your past, and your family. So there is a tendency to really focus on, you know, family and, you know, home value type things. Seeking security and comfort is a huge theme, and also finding a safe space or safe environment where they can be themselves and also take care of their loved ones. So once again, that's kind of coming under fire here with some of the oppositions to Pluto. They're known for being really sensitive and empathic. This is a sign that obviously picks up the emotions of other people, but is also deeply impacted and affected by them. And the sensitivity allows them to be understanding and also hold space for other people. Imbalances with Cancer energy can definitely take on other people's emotions, and it can lead to there being more mood swings or emotional vulnerability. So take into consideration that there's going to be a lot of like almost like projecting like fear or manipulation that may come up with this particular moon with some of those Pluto aspects. And with the squares to the nodes, it's going to pick up even more when the moon goes into Leo, but it's going to represent, you know, Cancer being the birth of something, right? It's like that period of something growing, and then Leo is the birth. So these two new moons always interest me. When we see the new moon in Cancer and then we go into Leo season and then we see the new moon in Leo, it does represent something kind of coming through empathically, emotionally, or in spirit. And then we see something physically, you know, kind of come to life. So yeah, I think that really what this is telling me is just short after this new moon, as the moon comes into a square with the nodes, we're going to realize that something has to come to life, or some kind of drama has to kind of kick up, or there has to be some kind of something that we're tapping into that's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this now. So there is motivation that's going to be coming through with this moon, even if you're not picking it up for about a day or two. They're very intuitive with making decisions. That's the other thing some of you guys might find, especially with you know, this sextile that's taking place with Uranus, that your emotions are trying to tell you something. They're trying to kind of get something through to you. And you might benefit by listening to your intuition more, especially when it comes to making decisions. And I do feel like it's going to help people kind of navigate where they're going a little bit better, and not feeding into the doom and the gloom and the fear, leaning more into getting grounded and being in the body and being able to be like, okay, I'm going to make a decision, but I'm also going to listen to my intuition or my emotions at the same time, because clearly they're trying to navigate me in some particular direction. Watch for protective energy and moodiness, though, because I do think that that is something that comes with the, you know, Cancer realm. But I think it's because also some of the aspects, not just to Pluto, but also to Chiron. And so Chiron in Aries is bringing up our own personal wounds and things that we need to heal. And so we have like an opening square that was kind of playing up, leading up to this new moon, where we're starting to realize like where emotions are kind of bubbling over as a result of things that we haven't consciously taken action and healed. So the emotions can almost be like that trigger or that warning that's like, hey, this is coming up because you've kind of pushed this down inside. And if you don't want it to create some kind of further issues or some kind of real serious health issues, then it's time to kind of set intentions to be able to work with this and make lemonade. Here are some key aspects that are typically associated with the new moon in Cancer. Emotional renewal is a big thing. So if you're looking to, you know, do some emotional healing, if you're looking to get some Reiki or a massage or therapy, or, you know, making peace with something, this is a good time to do it because Cancer encourages emotional renewal and introspection. It's a time to connect with your emotions in your inner world, and it will help you gain a deeper understanding of your own emotional needs. So it gives you the opportunity to release any emotional baggage and set intentions for new emotional healing and emotional growth. Cancer is all about nurturing and self-care. It's known for these qualities, and I think that what the moon teaches us is that we must really nurture our own inner emotions, and that is essential. And this new moon is an opportunity to prioritize self-care activities such as creating a safe environment, attending to your emotional well-being, and taking time to engage in activities that bring you comfort and nourishment. Especially with some of the aspects that we see in Taurus, I definitely think that that is very supported. But also I think about like setting boundaries, right? Because crabs are also in a shell. That's how they protect themselves. And Cancer can be very sensitive and prone to absorbing emotions of other people. So during a new moon in Cancer, it's important to set healthy boundaries emotionally and take time to identify what drains you and your energy, and establish these boundaries so you can protect your emotional well-being while still being compassionate to other people. So it is possible for you to do that. It can be a win-win situation. But obviously that is going to require a sense of the willingness to do that. Now, for other people, it might be more about expressing vulnerability and like learning to get in touch with like the softer side of that Cancer energy, because Cancer is associated with vulnerability and emotional openness. So, you know, the new moon in Cancer encourages you to embrace that vulnerability, express your true emotions authentically, and hopefully this is a period that helps you develop deeper connections with others through honest and heartfelt communication. These are just a few of the themes that come up for me. Let me now show you guys some of the aspects that are going to be taking place in this moon. But as a reminder, once again, this is a new moon that is taking place in conjunction to the United States Mercury. So that really interests me because I do feel like it may kick something off in regards to information, something coming up, some kind of, you know, deep research, or there's going to be, you know, some kind of some digging that might happen because it's going to be in the United States 8th house, bringing something out into light, and that will most likely take time. I don't think that's going to be immediately, but that piqued my interest. And also something that came up for me is that in early October of 2023, a couple months down the road, we are going to see the South Node and Mars come into conjunction around 24 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be in Libra. It's going to be over here. But when the South Node is there and the North Node is here, and we see a debilitated Mars and South Node come together and square this, that is going to be a huge push from the universe to take the steps forward necessary to see some of your intentions from this new moon go forward. And it's going to be a real test of faith. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. So just a heads up, guys, because Mars and the South Node can be about cutting and letting go, because, you know, Libra can be about relationships. And that is going to be like that halfway point between the new moon and also Pluto. You may realize that some of the cleaning house is also in regards to family relationships. It's in regards to romantic relationships. I think we're going to see a lot of people that are going to go, now I have to end the relationship and I'm moving, or I took the job in another, you know, part of town, so I'm relocating, or I'm bringing relatives to come and stay and live with me. Now it's impacting my relationship, because we're going to see the energy of Libra getting kicked up, you know, kind of conflicting with these two. So make a mental note or write down like, hey, my goals are going to get tested a little bit in early October, and that's when you're going to feel a little bit of a squeeze. But like I said, the moon is at home in its own sign, so it's got that going for it. We do have a new moon that's in trine to Neptune, which is obviously magical, right? Mystical, mysterious, spiritual. It can also be about, you know, being really sensitive and like tapped into what's going on in the ethers. Great for dream work, great for intuitive work. If you're into like psychic stuff, if you're into healing or hypnosis or meditation or past life regression, this is all really great during this new moon. But it can also be about making an effort to, you know, do more at home or privately when it comes to spiritual work or when it comes to rest and recuperation. And this is just like, yeah, an amazing water trine. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot of emotions that are kind of coming to the surface during this new moon, or encouraging us to get more in touch. At the same time, we're also going to see, like I said, that new moon in opposition to Pluto. So it will be hours later that this new moon will oppose Pluto at 29 degrees. And we will also have seen the nodes change signs. So later in the day, I guess the evening on the 17th, we're going to see this 29-degree cardinal cross kind of set up. And like, that's really when the new moon sets in. That's the first real significant aspect the moon is going to make outside of a trine to Neptune. And that's going to ignite this. So I'm watching to see what's going to be happening with like world events around the 17th, 18th. And then shortly after that, the moon is then going to go into Leo, and then it's, you know, it's still kind of squaring the nodes, but then the moon changes signs. And what's cool is that we're going to see the moon in Leo, where there's all this energy in Leo, and the dispositor is the sun. So we'll see 2 days after that new moon, just like lots of stuff going on in relation to Leo-related things, creativity, you know, children, taking chances, romance, and just so many planets now are going to start turning retrograde, guys. By the summer, there's going to be 7 planets retrograde. So a lot of people are going to be like, what's going on? Why do things feel so weird and so wacky? And that's going to be kind of taking place round about the time that we're kind of in this lunar cycle for the month. Okay, so let me take you back to the new moon. There we go. Another aspect also is going to be with the sun and moon in a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. So that is this angle right here. So it's a 60 degrees. So you have to actually like do the work to reap the rewards, or make the changes in Taurus to be able to reap the rewards of Cancer. And Uranus is sudden change and inspiration, freedom. And so I've said before, you know, I think this summer a lot of people are going to be like moving and like lots of changes with living situations and housing. I would say that anyway, with planets in Cancer coming into an opposition with Pluto and the nodes coming into a square. I think an increased talking point is going to be just about the cost of living right now, and the fact that people are kind of getting pushed to their breaking point. You know, debt is at all-time high, personal debt, in terms of people who are having to kind of put bills and food and other things like, you know, on credit, or just this ever-increasing cost of living, and the fact that it's becoming really dire for some people in regards to like their living situations, and people definitely feeling like they're being stretched far beyond their limit. So I think that's going to come up a lot. And the sun and the moon, it's by about 6 degrees or so. We do see, well, 5-6 degrees, we do see a square to Chiron. So, you know, Chiron does represent wounds in Aries on a personal level. And so this square does represent like where emotions, I think, are coming up as a result of us not dealing with our issues, right? Not healing our core inner wounds, and how these issues can play out and affect us. And it can be ancestral. It can be like repeating patterns and things that have happened that have been passed down from generation to generation. That's very fourth house. You know, it is about ancestral connections. And where we're playing out these same wounds, and it's not getting anywhere, right? It can also be about where, you know, healing that is not dealt with does manifest as issues relating to the stomach, the emotions, the, you know, tranquility in the home, the breast. These are all things kind of connected to Cancer. And there's definitely some wounding. Maybe we'll see that kind of get picked up from as early as the time that the sun and the moon are squaring, actually. So that energy is going to be actually building, let's see, for a little while, because that's going to be like the closing transits. So we see a sun square Chiron on the 11th of July, and it is at a 19. So I do think it's about relationships. And then we see the moon come in for that square, and that's going to be happening on the 16th. So both of those days, it's like really important to be like paying attention to your body and paying attention to your emotions, and like where you're feeling like you're, you know, not processing something or feeling something all the way through. So it's creating some health problems, or where emotions are coming up and you're just like, I don't want to deal with this. But, you know, when the sun and moon are in Cancer, it becomes something that we physically see. It's not just feeling, it's like we see it in action. So we see that Cancer caretaking in action. We can also see the extreme fluctuations in the mood and the emotions in action. And likely a lot of this is getting kicked up, I think, because of the oppositions to Pluto. I know I sound like a broken record, but you guys are going to see from the 17th until the sun opposes Pluto on the 22nd, this pressure is just going to be immense, because we're seeing very unique configurations at 29 that is pushing us to finally kind of confront some kind of fear in our life, something that has power over us, something that's scary. Pluto square the node says this must change or transform or die for evolutionary reasons. And the sun square the nodes is definitely about things revolving around solar figures, you know, the men in our lives, our leaders. It can also be about celebrities and people who are recognized out in the world. And it'll be interesting to see this happen in this axis, because I definitely feel like it's somebody who poses a threat to our security, right? And we'll see some of this kind of get kicked up, I think a little bit before the days prior to that. Okay, and then also, you know, Pluto square the nodes. You guys have heard me kind of talk about this and say that this is probably one of the more potent aspects in the month of July. because we have it at 29 degrees and because when planets square the nodes, we must integrate this thing. So what you're going to probably experience with the sun in Cancer, you know, let's say like the 17th all the way until the better part of the 23rd, the sun is activating all of these things, and it is kind of shining a light on, hey, this thing is not like working. This is like toxic. This is breaking down. Here's the emotions relating to this. Let's deal with it so we can end that cycle and we can move further into the North Node. Well, at the time, we're going to have the ruler, Mars, in opposition to Saturn. So look at how many oppositions are here. Opposition to the moon, opposition to Saturn. This is very relational. It's like basically saying we're going to learn a lot about the back and forth that we're going to have with other people, and like learning to find balance through that opposition is possible. But likely, I think this is going to be like calling a solar figure out on their bullshit. Or exposing some, you know, something in regards to, you know, crime and shadowy things out in the world. People oftentimes forget that when the sun is in one sign, the earth is in another. So the earth is actually going to be exactly in conjunction and in alignment with the same degree as Pluto. In an earth sign means that it's going to play out quite physically, and we're going to see where it has the potential to threaten our security, our homeland, right? Our homes, our families, our safety. And Saturn is the dispositor of Pluto, and it will be in opposition to the moon, and it'll be in opposition to Mars. So we're going to be hearing something about like health-related things, or the service industry, or, you know, somebody or something jumping into action, you know, to secure us or to protect us. But lots of illusions going on with some of these Neptune aspects, so I would be careful with that. In terms of other planetary aspects, we do have Mercury that is in Leo. Mercury is in a square, obviously, with Jupiter. Let's go back to the new moon. There we go. Mercury is in a square to Jupiter at 12 degrees. Making things bigger. News is bigger, travel is bigger, conversations are bigger. And Mercury is in a sign that does deal with pride and joy and romance and creativity. So I think a lot of people are going to be saying like, okay, I'm emotionally getting prepared to do the things we're going to do the next 2 or 3 months or over the summer. Getting the family prepared for the trip, getting the home prepared for people to come and visit. And we don't really start to see a build until we see like a cardinal sign, right? So Cancer creates that safe space so that way children can grow and they can, you know, have the necessary needs and provisions, right, that kind of come with Leo and Virgo. So we're initiating something emotionally that's really going to inspire us and help us create and also better be of service. And then Venus is getting ready to station, guys. So she's going to go retrograde on the 22nd. She will not leave 28 degrees. So the degree that she's at right now is where she will retrograde back in conjunction to Regulus. And we know that Regulus can be about the mark of a king. Maybe you guys have heard me talk about this in various videos. I also talked about it in my Venus retrograde, that there were some really prominent people who are kind of like elites in the world that have placements here. So to watch the Venus retrograde over that is definitely going to be a star-studded event, as if Venus retrograde was not dramatic enough. But because she's stationing, usually when a planet is getting ready to go retrograde or go direct, we see something really significant connecting to that particular planet. So Venus is obviously about money and resources and self-esteem and values and our possessions and anything that's deemed valuable, right? And Venus is in the sign that does deal with like the stock market and also does deal with taking chances, gambling, you know, younger people, creatives. And I have thought for a while that the Venus retrograde is really going to be heavily tied to speculative stuff and markets. And when Venus retrogrades, she's going to square off with Uranus several times. So I guess my point is Venus being in this position, square Uranus and quincunx Pluto and quincunx Neptune, she is like the star, and she's getting ready to show where there's going to be lots of changes that are going to be going on in relationships. And I think that that's more so, you know, new moon in Leo, right? Other new and full moons that are coming over the summer, but it's all being built off of like what's going on emotionally and what's going on in the home right now. We do have Mars coming into an opposition with Saturn, which is a harsh energy, especially considering Mars rules the South Node in the final moments. You know, Saturn is about commitment and form and limitation and boundaries. So when you have Mars, which wants to push ahead, and Saturn, which says no, this makes me feel like this next month we're going to feel like there's a lot of hurdles, or there's like a lot of like challenges that we need to overcome. And we feel like it's just, things are slowing down. It's not really allowing us to move forward as quickly as we would like. So some of us can get discouraged with that Mars-Saturn opposition. And the key here is like slow and steady wins the race. You want to really take your time and allow things to kind of come together. But similar to what I've said to you guys really since the beginning of the year, is there's so many aspects to Neptune, which is about what are your dreams, what are your intuitions, what are you manifesting, what are you praying for? How is your relationship with spirit? Are you just asking for things, or are you also showing up and doing the work and doing the devotional work? Are you giving back? Are you really developing a relationship with your higher self? Neptune can be about isolation, right? Pisces can be about isolation. So having all these planets in Pisces, I think, is really talking about like some people getting almost like stunned or shocked or complacent and like used to not saying anything, not doing anything, and kind of being in this like hermit mode or zombified state. So this new moon, if you use it appropriately, it can catapult you, I think, with the sextiles to Uranus and the trines to Neptune, to go, hey, my emotions are feeling this way. I need to acknowledge it, get to the core of why this is coming up. What can I do to kind of better utilize these feelings and use it as motivation to get to where I want to go? Because if you're not coming up with a plan to emotionally kind of set things right or hold that space for some of the new things that you're going to do, forget it. And this is the relationship that the 4th house has with the 10th house. It says, without a foundation, without a home, without a nurturing space, a person, a place, something that is safe and secure, you can't have the 10th house, because this is where everything is built. And in my mind, the backbone really of the natal chart is the 2nd, 4th, and 6th, because it holds the balance for health and home and security. If we have those things, we can get to the top. But what's interesting is that we see this opposition, which is saying we need this right now. We need to bring our attention back to our emotions and our feelings and our home. We can't get lost in kind of like the rat race, right? And then finally, the good news is that Mars is now coming into, or still kind of in a trine with the North Node during the new moon. So we're feeling motivated, and Mars in Virgo is wanting us to kind of have a plan and get things in order and focus on being of service and health, and also, you know, just getting things done in a timely manner, which does not feel always possible, I think, with Mars and Saturn oppositions. I have found that usually people who go through those transits or who have it natally, they learn that patience is a virtue, right? It can't just be pedal to the metal all the time with Mars. Saturn says, slow it down. You know, it's going to take time to reach your goal. Don't make it be about the end result right now. Be present in the moment. And what can you actually start putting forth now to have better results down the road? So this is not an immediate gratification type moon. This is if you don't do anything, if you don't manifest, likely you're going to feel that there's going to be some kind of crisis or pressure in the Capricorn area of your life that's going to projectile launch you into being like, okay, I don't like these feelings, I'm going to do something about it. If you're working with it, you're going to go, I know it's going to take time. I'm not going to get frustrated by the fact that it's going to take a little bit longer. I'm not expecting immediate results in the next week, but I do know where I want to be 6 months from now. And I also know that it's important for me to have that safe security within my life, so I feel like I can start building on those things, right? And you gotta love when there is a trine to the North Node, there's a sextile to the South Node. And so I kind of like this because there's like a cutting through anything that's not necessary. There is removing anything that is not working. And keep in mind that, you know, Mercury is connected to Virgo and Mercury is square Jupiter. So those of you guys who are like, part of actually feeling better is getting up and working out, going for a walk, getting outside of my usual routine. It's organizing my apartment, cleaning my house. It's having a garage sale and getting rid of stuff. Bringing in people to help me organize, asking if somebody can come and help me, you know, do the yard work, getting your home in order, right? I have 4 planets in Capricorn in my 4th house, and that's just something I have found myself always going back to before I start something new. I'm like, the house has to be in order, otherwise I can't do it. And it's weird, but I finally realized that that's really where this kind of comes from, is you're going to respond to your space. So when you get in that headspace where you're ready to start new, sometimes it means you need a new home, or you need a new arrangement of furniture, or you need a new roommate, or, you know, something. And that may actually give you the physical and emotional support that you need to be able to kind of go forth with some of your other goals, especially if you're hoping to just really focus on productivity. You know, Mars in Virgo is going to be very productive, and we're seeing lots of nice aspects to the North Node and then eventually Jupiter. So I really like this for like getting things cleaned up, getting things organized, and emotionally, and cleaning house as well, detoxifying with Mars, you know, sextile the South Node, cutting out anything and everything that's not like making us feel good emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So here's some ritual recommendations that I have for you guys in regards to this new moon. Always, right, set intentions. That's the key here. Set intentions and be very clear about your goal setting. Write down what you want to wish or manifest or cultivate in your life, and really find out which house is relating to this new moon. So find Cancer, whatever that house rules is where you're setting those new intentions. And I would recommend whenever you write it down, just keep that little piece of paper somewhere in like a safe space. I know some of you guys have where you light your incense and your candles, and some of you guys might have little places where you hide all your mystical, magical goods, but hold on to that and keep those intentions nearby as a reminder of what you're holding space for emotionally, but also in 6 months' time to see how some of this stuff manifests for you, right? I really like moon bathing and water rituals, especially with lunations in Cancer, because Cancer is a water sign, and I think working with water during this moon can be very powerful because of some of the Saturn and Neptune aspects. So you guys can take a ritual bath or a shower, you know, visualizing the water cleansing and purifying things away. If you want to add essential oils, herbs, or sea salt to the water, you can do that as well. And just imagine all emotional burdens and negativity being washed away. Something I like to do when I take my baths and stuff is like, I won't get out of the tub until the tub is completely empty. So I'll, you know, soak, do my herbal stuff, put all my magic spices and herbs and crystals and things into the water, and then when I'm done, I'll make sure I'm fully submerged from head to toe, and then I'll pull the drain, but I don't get out of the tub until it's drained. And I do that as a I guess kind of like a visualization of just everything going down the drain, everything kind of clearing. So just some really easy you know, bathroom magic for you. But because Cancer also has connections to the home, home or house blessing and cleansings can also be especially powerful, especially those of you guys who are wanting to protect your home space. I'm looking at those oppositions to Pluto, and I feel like this is definitely going to prompt a lot of people to start thinking about home protection, whether that's protection services or security or fences or cameras, or just feeling like you need a little bit more spiritual oomph to protect your space. So this would be a good time to do that if you guys want to work with herbs to smudge, or if you want to mix up something that you can wash your floors with. I would recommend considering doing that. I personally love to use like fresh lemons and sea salt, and I like to use 4 Thieves vinegar sometimes in my my floor wash, or I'll use like a little bit of Van oil, or like uncrossing oil. And yeah, I like to sweep from the front all the way out the back. So I start at the front of the house and I go out the back, or vacuum if you're a modern witch. And then I'll do the same with mopping the floors from the front all the way out the back, and I open the doors and the windows. And then when I'm done, I'll just like, you know, burn my incense, burn my smudging materials, and just let the house kind of chill, right? Because smudging, especially just with sage, for me, kind of wipes everything out. So I would recommend burning something that's going to be protective and kind of like keep the home in check, just to kind of balance out the energies within your space. Moon gazing and meditation is also really great. Spending time outside under the moonlight, near a body of water would be great. You know, and gazing at the moon, allowing it to kind of calm your mind and open your heart, and maybe practicing, you know, meditation at the same time, doing some breath work, and allowing emotions to kind of flow through you, and using this as an opportunity to connect your intuition and gain insights into your emotional needs and desires. Now, herbs that I would recommend would be eucalyptus, aloe, jasmine, and lemon balm. And if you're a rock hound and you like to work with crystals, I would grab selenite, moonstone, white opal, rose quartz, or clear quartz for this particular moon. Also, you can work with pearl if that's something that you have or that you like to wear. Abalone could be really wonderful, also working with, you know, lunar things going on in Cancer. All right, so let's go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about how this is going to be affecting the various 12 rising signs. So let me pull this up for you guys and we will get going with that. As a reminder, I am a Western astrologer, so I practice Western techniques. This is going to be the predictions for the 12 signs. You're going to get the most out of my predictions by listening to your rising sign, followed by your sun and your moon sign. And I will say, especially for this particular lunation, because it's a new moon in Cancer, I am really going to encourage everybody to listen to their moon sign. I think that that would be really helpful, given some of the themes that we spoke about today. You know, a lot of Vedic astrologers also focus on the moon sign in their predictions, and I don't feel like we see that as much in Western astrology. So if it's not something that you usually listen to, you know, listen to your moon sign this time. This is obviously going to be for whole sign. So if you're a Placidus user like me, I would recommend finding where 24 degrees of Cancer is in your chart, which house it's in. You may need to listen to more than one particular rising sign. But I will be giving you guys all three along with some of my tarot predictions here as well. So you guys are kind of better on the up and up with knowing how to kind of set intentions in regards to this new moon. And you're welcome to listen to your progress chart as well. All right, so we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. What's going on, Aries? A lot of what I said pertains to you. You know, you've got this new moon that's going to be taking place in your 4th house. So the moon is returning home. It can mean that you're spending this new moon at home or thinking about or working on home-related issues. If you're looking to move, if you're looking to change homes, buy a place, relocate, go and visit the family, have a gathering at home, if you're anticipating a bigger home change that's going to take up to, you know, 6 months or a year, this is a good time to start planning if that's something that you want or need to do. And I'm liking the aspects to the 2nd house because it does talk about, you know, getting a little bit more creative when it comes to what your values are. And I do think there's going to be more focus on like action and socializing and things going on at home. I do know that there may be some parental things coming up for you, Aries, especially as the nodes change signs and they come into a square with Pluto, and the sun also squares the nodes as well. So there can be a lot of feeling like you're being pulled between two different angles in regards to your responsibility at work, where you're like, something's got to change out in the world, and also what's going on when it comes to your home base. Now, very soon the North Node's going to be in your sign, so you're not going to be willing to sell yourself short. You're going to be really focusing the next, you know, year and a half on what your non-negotiables are, what you need personally. And it might mean that there's some emotional stuff that comes up and it's just your breaking point and you're like, this is it, now something has to change. We'll see. At the time of the moon, we do have your chart ruler Mars in opposition to Saturn. So that does make me feel like you really got to take care of your physical health. There can be a sense of really kind of feeling run down and feeling like you're just running yourself ragged. But really take time to kind of get quiet and get cozy and really reevaluate what you need on the home front with this particular new moon. The card that I get for you is the High Priestess. So, hi. That's kind of like my green light. That's just like, yeah, whatever I was kind of like picking up intuitively, that's what we're going to go with. Intuition, mystery, sacred knowledge, divine feminine, knowing, higher power. Is this about you touching, base with your intuition a little bit more, feeling into that? Probably, especially with the trines to Neptune. But this is also about like all knowing and letting things come to you at the right time. So I do think this is like you feeling like, I know there's a change coming. It's just a matter of allowing that to happen in its own time. And I will encourage you to be doing things that's helping you connect to your intuition and strengthen some of those gut feelings, right? Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You're going to be experiencing a new moon in Cancer in your natal 3rd house. What's up, Taurus? Well, you have got this new moon in the 3rd house of communication, travel, learning. This can also be about connections to siblings, short distance trips, vehicles. And a new moon here is a fresh start when it comes to these things. I like the energy of the sextiles to your 1st house with this new moon. I do feel like this is all about communication and how you're feeling more excited and willing to do new things and explore and embrace change. And maybe you're feeling a little restless. So maybe you're setting intentions around learning something new, maybe relocating, maybe you're looking into new areas that you're potentially going to move to in the future, especially over the next 6 months. This may prompt some kind of action in regards to traveling or services that could be online, websites, blogs, things that you're writing or that you're putting out there that other people can read. Maybe you're just wanting to start journaling a little bit more. Maybe you're thinking also about possibly looking into like a change in, like I said, your neighborhood or vehicles. At the time of this particular moon, we do see that Venus is getting ready to go retrograde. So that's your chart ruler. And she's going to turn retrograde in the 4th house, which can be looking back at the 3rd. So I do feel like this is about you reconnecting maybe with relatives, female relatives. Maybe you're setting an intention to be like, I got to call my sister more. I got to go and visit my family more, and getting ready to just really focus on communicating more with relatives in regards to what might potentially be changing or taking place when it comes to the home front. But for the most part, a lot of the aspects of this moon are very friendly with your placements, Taurus. So you're kind of the person who is going to be leading the charge to making a lot of these changes. And maybe you're realizing that communication and speaking up and speaking from the heart and being more sensitive about things might actually be what's going to really help you kind of move forward. So let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the 7 of Cups. So this is very Neptunian energy. 7 of Cups can be talking about multiple options, choices, cloud of judgment, opportunities, wishful thinking, searching for purpose. I feel like this is a lot more about like learning and communicating and touching base with some topics that might be a little bit more emotional or intuitive or sensitive. And maybe it is wishful thinking, right? 3rd house is that, when you have the sextiles to Jupiter right now. It doesn't hurt to explore. It doesn't hurt to see what else is out there. I will say that there is like a sense of having too many options or being overwhelmed by too many options. And I think maybe that can be going on right now with just like a multitude of different ways, like either a family or a home situation can play out. And you're just like, I don't really know what it's going to end up being. Maybe you're overwhelmed with that. But leaning more into the trines to Neptune is focusing less on a specific goal, focusing more on the outcome. Don't worry so much about how all the pieces of the puzzle come together right now. The way to work with this moon is to sit down, write out your intentions, allow those things to come to fruition over the next 6 months, and really focus on the end goal, not everything in between. Because if you get caught up in all the details, you're going to get overwhelmed and it's not going to make sense and you're not going to be as open for the universe to intervene. Okay? Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing a new moon in Cancer in your natal 2nd house. And this is a house that's all about resources, self-esteem, your spending power, your possessions. So the sun and the moon coming together here, first and foremost, I think is really about getting on track with your emotional well-being and really what you value when it comes to your home life, when it comes to your family. It can be about spending power and like purchasing and setting goals in regards to being able to possess something. So some of you guys might be really adamant about being like, I want to be able to buy a home, or I want to be able to get a bigger place, or I want to be able to, you know, make an expensive purchase. And how your financial situations affect you emotionally, right? Cancer, second house. Now, at the time of this new moon, Mercury, which is your chart ruler, is in a square to Jupiter. So it tells me that there is a lot of you like thinking hard behind the scenes and trying to kind of strategize and plan what the future may hold for you. And you're really optimistic. Some of you guys are even like meditating more frequently, or you're doing some journaling, and you're strategizing how to get from point A to point B. And you're not really sure how to get there yet, but you do know that it is really important for you to be kind of holding the vision before it comes into fruition. Really interesting, because I feel like this can also be like you having intuitive downloads or dreams, or like really important conversations that might spark some kind of creative project, especially during the Venus retrograde later in the month. One thing I would say with the new moon here is that this is a wonderful time to set intentions revolving around abundance. So if it's not just about your talent and your security and your self-esteem, if you're wanting to bring in more money, if you're wanting to bring in more resources, if you have a goal in mind for something that you would like to possess or be able to buy, this would be the time to do it. And you do have a number of supporting factors like trines to planets in your 10th house, which is about your career. So wanting to be able to really grow your resources as a result of showing up, doing it, putting in the hard work, and committing to your goal. And then also the sextiles that you have to all of these planets in the 12th house, like I said, it's about visualization, almost as if you're treating things like you already have it, what it looks like and feels like to possess that new home, to be able to have extra money in the bank, to be able to buy the things that you want and that you need, especially if it's for your home or your family. So that seems to be like a really, really important theme for the month ahead. Let's take a look and see what these cards say for you, Gemini. The card that I get is the Queen of Swords. I love this for you because this is you being an air sign. This is about like really putting your ideas and your words out there. Independent, intelligent. It's about being honest. Clear about your boundaries, having objectives, being able to be logical, and practicing constructive criticism. So I feel like you may feel like you're guided to write something, work on something, say something. Maybe this is the phase right now where you're putting more emphasis into building your self-esteem so you feel confident enough to be able to do some of these things that may be coming over the next couple of weeks after this new moon. But this might also be about contracts, communications, negotiations. And so especially from financial dealings, it can be about needing to have conversations with people about your financial situation, or signing on the dotted line for something with Mercury being in your 3rd house in relation to your finances. So leases and buying cars and moving and making plans, anything that you sign, right, or anything that you need to discuss or negotiate in regards to financial matters may come up. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. Welcome to your new moon. I hope it's a good one. And if it happens to be around a day or so of your birthday, you're going to have a new moon on your birthday, which is like a fresh start for you this year. When you have the new moon in your 1st house, it's essentially setting the stage for what your goals are going to be for yourself, for your body, for your emotions, for your appearance, for the better part of the next 6 months. So this is important because it's about, you know, what you're tapping into emotionally, right? The moon rules your chart. So whenever the moon makes aspects or the moon's in your 1st house, you're going to be a little bit more emotional. And it's coming into contact with the sun, which rules your 2nd house. So it's a lot of I possess, I have, I value, I need, right? And I think that that's what you're getting in touch with right now. Obviously, can be a little bit more challenging for the cardinal signs because we're getting ready to see the nodes change and also the squares to Chiron. So a new moon in the first house is like setting the stage for what goals you're setting for yourself, how you want to look, how you want to feel, how you're dressing. But it can also be about your emotions. So if it's time to set new goals for yourself, I recommend doing that. I like the fact that there are going to be sextiles to your 11th house, which tells me that you have like a supporting cast of individuals behind you, friends, networks, groups, or societies that can kind of help you along with some of these new goals, especially when it comes to you moving around or, you know, fulfilling some of your goals or even being able to be seen and recognized. You've got people who are kind of like cheering you on. Where this gets into some trouble is definitely the oppositions to Pluto. So you may see, especially like the 17th, 18th, 19th, really 17th until the end of the month, you're feeling the oppositions to Pluto. And so the North Node will shift into your 10th house of career, where you're focusing more on the direction of your life purpose and showing up out in the world, whether that's taking new jobs or starting your own business. And the South Node is going to move into the 4th house, where it's clearing karma relating to home, family, and relationships. And some of you guys might give up your home or make a change in your home or move. So this is some really heavy energy, especially if you're in the later degrees of Cancer. So, you know, 23 to 29 degrees, you're really going to be feeling some of these squares. And the oppositions to Pluto represent someone or something that's challenging you. Can be a partner, especially if it's a relationship that's been around for a while and it's really breaking down and it's not working. Can be a client, 7th house. It can also be a business partner or somebody that you deal with professionally. Pluto does rule your 5th house, so it can also be somebody who makes recommendations in terms of your investments. It can be a partner in your relationship in regards to your children. But there's some static here. You will see this the second half of the month. And I think the lesson is to not allow yourself to feel small, right? Not allowing other people to kind of like, you know, steal your limelight with all these planets going through your sign. And there can be a sense of other people wanting to kind of dim your light or wanting to kind of take away from you right now. And what you're going to be realizing is that your emotions are kind of like the compass for showing you whether or not you're outgrowing certain relationships, and if there's a need to kind of leave relationships in the past and move forward into your future where you're becoming a little bit more assertive, right? Aries in the 10th house, learning how to be a little bit more assertive and being okay with telling people what it is you need and where your boundaries are at. For the most part, you know, the trines to Neptune do have you feeling hopeful and, you know, connected to a practice or a mentor or a teacher. And like I said, the sextiles to the 11th has support from friends. So you have other people around you. If you're going through like a messy time in a relationship, or you're like, I just can't deal with this person who's bringing me down anymore, lean into some of these other relationships. Don't fall victim to staying in that relationship because you're afraid of being alone, because you'll realize that that can actually hinder you from making some of the moves that you need to be making professionally. Let's see what the cards say for you, Cancer. The card that I get is Justice, which is about balance and karma, and it is about relationships. It is about fairness, universal law, cause and effect, truth being revealed, legal truth, accountability, and consequences. And so for some people, you can see that there can be some kind of weird, like threatening vibes that can come from Pluto. Yes, Saturn is in the 9th, so some people may find themselves in a situation where somebody is saying, like, you better do this or I will do that. But justice is more about the balance. It's kind of like, once again, you reap what you sow. And we're going to see a lot of karma playing out in the world. And when I use the term karma, it's not me saying like, oh, you got your karma. It's not good or bad. Karma is neutral. It just is what it is. And so as Pluto squares the nodes, some things that were meant to happen, or some you know, events that are meant to happen usually do. And it can have some kind of cause and effect, right? We've been here before. this is where we're going, and this is kind of the price that you pay, good or bad, to be able to get from point A to point B. So you're gonna have to crack a few eggs basically to make an omelet. And what I can tell here is that those eggs that are getting cracked are relationships that may potentially get roughed up a little bit, for you to be able to feel like you have more authority over your own life. With the Justice card coming up, it's just like whatever is meant to play out in relationships well. And with all the planets moving through your first house, not everybody is going to like to see you choosing yourself or putting yourself first. Okay. Good luck, Cancer, and happy birthday to you. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You'll be experiencing a new moon in Cancer in your natal 12th house. And so this is a little mysterious. This is hidden, right? It's emotional. It is that time right before your birthday where you are getting ready to kind of cycle a bunch of things out before you come into your new year. So whether you're a Leo sun or a Leo rising, the 12th house is kind of what we are completing. So a new moon here definitely is going to want more seclusion. It wants privacy. It's going to want its own bedroom and Netflix and snacks. It's going to be opting for comfort and security. I do feel like when the moon comes into the 12th house, we retreat a little bit. So your lesson, I think, is going to be, or your task is going to be to find a comfortable space where you can kind of be alone, to rest, meditate. Going out, you know, and doing a retreat or being alone, you know, by a body of water can be really helpful. And some of you guys may also be setting intentions revolving around traveling more, continuing education, you know, connection also to foreign lands or people in foreign lands, but also connection to past lives. Dreams can be really active here. Intuition can be really active here. And obviously it's important because the sun rules your chart. So when we see the sun and the moon come together, it tells me that there is something going on behind the scenes where you're getting ready to start something new. But it's only once you've had time to kind of process and I think go over all of the things that have happened in this last year. Now, at the time of the new moon, obviously the sun and the moon are together, but we're also looking at the sun in a sextile to Uranus. So it tells me that there's something that's changing behind the scenes about your status out in the world. It can be relationship status change, career status change that are happening, and you're getting ready to kind of embrace some of that throughout this next month or so. We do see the oppositions to Pluto, and I do feel like this can be bringing up, very similar to Aquarius, issues relating to health and wellness, physical versus like mental. And, you know, Pluto in the 6th house can be about habits and patterns and issues going on at work or with schedules or coworkers. And then the opposition to the sun and the moon in the 12th can be talking about the impact that that has on you emotionally, where it's too much work and not enough downtime. Then it manifests as, you know, some emotional imbalances or just feeling like you need more rest and recuperation. The aspects between the sun and Uranus are good. The sun and Neptune is definitely quite magical and quite spiritual. And I do feel like there is a bit of a release with the trine from the 12th house to the 8th. So that's positive as well. And you're really going to start feeling the Venus retrograde kind of kicking in. I think a lot of what the next month for you is going to be about is like, yeah, what about what I want? What do I love? What do I need? What do I value? What changes am I making? In spite of what I'm supposed to be doing out in the world, the work stuff is great, but what about me? So there's going to be some challenge there, Leo. I'm sure you know that that's coming, but know that this is kind of like a cleaning out new moon, and things are going to get really quiet as you're getting ready to come into next month's new moon, which is going to feature a Venus retrograde. And I definitely think it's going to be about a significant status change out in the world. But for right now, you know, doing some meditating or, you know, connecting to your higher self or going to a spiritual place or focusing more on meditation and connection to other realms is really going to help you. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you. I get the 3 of Coins, which is kind of cool, because this is about, like, you know, team effort and working together, collaboration, skills, shared goals, and pooling your energy together. So I wonder if this is going to be like you meeting with other people, behind the scenes and getting things done. So it's not just you. It's like a lot of the success and the growth that's happening for you professionally is as a result of you willing to do the work with people behind the scenes. And that might mean you're working longer hours, or you're working at night, or you're, you know, having to have meetings with people in other places. You may not see all of that work, you know, out in the front, but it looks like you've got support and you've got a team behind you. And it's weird because, you know, the 12th house doesn't really deal with work, but I can see Mars going through your second house and the trines to the 10th house where, yeah, and it can be a very busy time for you right now. But likely, you know, you're able to kind of balance some of these energies where you need more privacy with the support of other people. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. Welcome to a new moon in Cancer in your natal 11th house. So this is bringing the intentions revolving around the new moon to friends, goals, networks, you know, goals in terms of also how you would like to make money when it comes to work. So if you're looking to bring in new streams of income or grow your salary, if you want to join a group, if you want to start a group, if you want to reconnect and spend time with friends, that's pretty much what this new moon is all about. Interesting stuff here because, you know, Cancer is very friendly with you, Virgo. There is a sextile. We're not going to see any personal planet sextile at the time, but we are seeing it naturally sextile, especially if you've got like a later degree Virgo rising, you know, 22 to like 25, 26 degrees. It's going to make a nice sextile there where you're going to feel like your goals or your friends are in harmony with the direction of where you're going with your life. Now, at the time of this particular new moon, we're going to see Mercury, which is your chart ruler, in the 12th house, which is a little hidden. It can feel a little heady or a little bit more private or a little bit more kind of like heads in the clouds, dreamy, kind of creative vibes. And Jupiter is receiving a square for Mercury. So to me, it seems like there is like a lot of wanting to possibly have time alone, honestly. Mercury in the 12th house, and it's squaring Jupiter. So it tells me like maybe you've lost yourself in a relationship. Maybe you've been focusing a lot also on travel or studying abroad, or maybe you have been taking a program and you're like, man, I've just been like doing so much of this, or I've been away for so long that I need to kind of reconnect to some of my people, some of my friends. Now, obviously, this does oppose Pluto, so one of the challenges here is that we do see challenges revolving around your goals and intentions you're setting when it comes to your social life, and how that's kind of rubbing up into some friction with either a child, a younger person, somebody that you're dating. I do notice that this trines Neptune in your 7th, so those of you guys who are single, socializing might make it possible for you guys to meet somebody new. And it might be important for you to be kind of connecting with your friends, and that may be something that lends energy with the trine to meeting partners. Now, also something else that I noticed is that Mars is in your sign now, and it's in opposition to Saturn. So you're feeling very much like go, 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 wanting to take action. And other people might be like, not now, not yet, I'm not available. And if you're one of those Virgos who's having issues in relationships, or you're feeling like someone who you're close to is like, you know, kind of distant and they're not connecting with you as much, or maybe you're coming off of a breakup, or you're taking a break in a relationship, going into the 11th house new moon is the answer, because it looks like it's going to prompt you to have more positivity about the future, maybe even travel. And also it'll give you the opportunity to receive support and nurturing from some of the people who love you the most. So if you felt out of sorts socially, this is a wonderful time to kind of like reconnect and honestly just focus on your goals in general. But it may take other people to help you become aware of these goals. The card that I get for you is the Tower, which you know, not really associated with this new moon, but I think it's definitely connected to some other things, like some of the Mars-Saturn stuff and a Venus retrograde in your 12th. The Tower card does talk about sudden change and upheaval and revelations and situations that are kind of like out of your control, where there's trauma and chaos and radical shift. I do believe more of this is coming from the oppositions to Saturn, when you're realizing that you're really frustrated about a situation involving another individual and you need support from others. And also probably the oppositions to Pluto, where if you are facing some kind of challenging issue with a heart-related manner, right, emotion-related manner, you've got people who can kind of help you deal with some of this crisis. You may be more affected by the Pluto squares as well, because that to me seems very like towery. And we're going to see that the South Node going into your second and the North Node going into your eighth square Pluto is going to be about radical changes in regards to self-expression. So probably having people around you who are going to support you during this time can be beneficial. And just know that, you know, for the most part, your chart ruler is not negatively aspected. It's just kind of hiding out a little bit. And I think that might kind of be the case even until Virgo season, because we're going to see Mercury retrograde in your sign. So once Mercury kind of gets direct later in the year, going into like September, you're going to have some easier Mercury aspects. So for right now, it seems like you're kind of in your head a little bit. Hopefully that's helpful and you navigate that tower moment with ease. We've got Libra and Libra rising. This is going to be a new moon that you're going to have in the sign of Cancer, taking place in your natal 10th house of your career, your public image, and reputation. Interesting because like all the cardinal signs, you're definitely feeling the crunch. So if you happen to be a Libra rising, sun or moon, anywhere around, let's say 22 to 26 degrees, you're going to feel this a little bit more intensely. When we have a new moon in the 10th house, it gives us an opportunity to kind of hit fresh, you know, get a fresh start and start over when it comes to what your goals are out in the world. Little different because you're obviously inverted. So you've got Cancer in the 10th house. So this might be more about how you're taking charge of something relating to your home, your emotions, something that you're very emotionally connected to. It can also be about your intuition. Because Cancer is so intuitive. So if you're looking to launch a business, if you're looking to take a new job, go back to work, if you're looking also to just be responsible for something, you know, I know there are some people who watch these videos that they're not working. Cancer in the 10th house can be about taking care of your family, taking care of a kid, taking care of a dog. And the moon obviously is in its ruling sign. So there is something about, you know, your goals out in the world and what you're hoping to accomplish, not just in a professional setting, but in a life sense, right? What life things you're hoping to kind of accomplish. Now, this is coming into oppositions with Pluto. So it looks like you have some big things that you want to make happen in regards to your career and you're wanting to kind of go big or go home. What you're going to realize is that, you know, the squares to the 7th house is putting you in a position where you're like, okay, some of my goals might actually hinder my relationships, right? Or for me to be able to achieve some of these goals, I need other people to kind of help me. And the oppositions to Pluto, I think, is where there is something that's kind of emotionally turbulent, something going on in your physical home space, something going on with your family that is inhibiting or threatening your ability to feel like you can really be out in the world and like getting things done. At the time of this particular new moon, Venus, which is your chart ruler, is getting ready to go retrograde. So it's going to be stationing. Venus isn't really doing anything other than that. We do see the quincunx to Pluto, so that maybe is really highlighting the fact that there's a home, emotional, or domestic situation that must be dealt with in order for you to move forward. While Venus goes retrograde in your 11th house, it's about the love that you receive from other people. And it's going to also trine the North Node in your 7th house. So what you're going to learn is that sometimes reconnecting with friends and people who remind you of how amazing and, you know, just lovable you are is exactly what you need. And you might find yourself kind of socializing more over the summer with people who you haven't seen in a while. And if you're undergoing some kind of challenge or issue with the quincunx to Pluto, like relocating or, you know, changing, you know, relationships or having some kind of family crisis, friends may be there to lend a helping hand, as well as partners. So the North Node going into the 7th house is about letting partners help you work through making some home or emotional changes. For the most part, though, these sextiles to Jupiter and Uranus do indicate that some of the new intentions that you have in regards to your career may positively impact you financially, emotionally, or psychologically, because the 8th house is about these topics. And I wonder if this is about some of you guys like leaning into the idea of looking at new ways to create money or income, and where you're making new decisions in regards to your career by paying better attention to your emotions, right? Trines to Neptune in the 6th house also has you quite busy. So I definitely think that this is still a busy period for you. With Saturn in the 6th, you're going to have work for some time, or you're finding work that is really meaningful, and you're going to kind of stick with it. Let's take a look and let's see what these cards have to say for you, Libra. The card that I get for you is the Magician. Creating your own reality, making magic happen. 8th house is definitely magic and mystical and things that can be a little bit more taboo. So I like the idea of you kind of being a little bit more creative with like ways that you can drum up more business. But this is about manifesting, focused creativity, turning visions into reality, inspiration, willpower, desire, and resources, which is cool because you're tapping into some kind of resource to be able to make new things happen in regards to your career. But this is also about faith. And I also believe that this has a connection to like magical things. So there might be some kind of intent you're setting revolving around the changes that you're making with your career. I've seen a lot of Libra risings that have been contemplating getting into like astrology, Reiki, tarot reading, you know, because Jupiter and Uranus are setting up in your 8th house of making money through these things through other people. And I definitely think that the Venus retrograde is going to be an opportunity to reevaluate just, you know, how do I want to make money and is it possible? Kind of maybe throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. But you might actually hit a couple things that can be quite lucrative with the Venus-Jupiter square. So it's about really kind of manifesting some of this stuff. And I like this for you with the trine to Neptune in your 6th house. Really positive time to be setting intentions in regards to the job that you want, but also be feeling good while you're doing it, right? Being in a position where you're doing something that comes naturally to you. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's going on, Scorpio? You have a new moon in Cancer. This is going to take place in your 9th house. And it's in a fellow sister sign. So if you happen to be a Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere between, let's say, 23 and 25 degrees, you're going to experience a trine. So it's going to be harmonious, probably emotional. And you will actually experience a grand water trine. But what can I say about this, Scorpio? You know, a new moon taking place in your 9th house. This is all going to be about your faith, your philosophy, the higher purpose and vision of life. It can be about setting intentions in regards to publishing something, going back to school, traveling, or if you have intentions in regards to moving somewhere further away, okay, or traveling abroad. The new moon is about setting intentions in regards to these things. And there's some challenging aspects in my mind for you, okay? So hear me out on this. Unless you've got some planets in the late degrees of Scorpio where you will experience a trine, I do think that this opposition to Pluto kind of tells me that you may feel almost as if like there's somewhere you want to go, but you can't quite get your mind there yet, if that makes sense. Pluto is retrograde. It's back in your 3rd house, so it's helping you reevaluate the power of words and how you communicate and how you're thinking. There might be a major transformation going on in your neighborhood, maybe with a relationship with a sibling. Maybe there is some sense of you really kind of getting in touch with your own personal power and learning how to empower yourself rather than worrying or thinking pessimistically. So this new moon challenges that, right? It's basically saying like, get out of the lower mind of the worst case scenario, everything's terrible, nothing's going to work. And it's encouraging you to go more into the 9th house, which is anything is possible as long as you're listening to your higher self. It might be important for you to connect with a mentor or a teacher or a guide during this time so you can kind of find the faith. Equally, if you're looking to like learn about a new subject, it's cool to see Pluto go retrograde in the node square. So it's forcing you to think about something or learn something and like reevaluate in some way, and then watch the new moon in opposition. It's really pushing you to kind of learn how to integrate a new skill, so that way you can communicate or think differently, so that way you can get to that bigger purpose. So before you can publish something, you need to learn how to be able to like properly write the book, or before you sell the course and advertise it, you need to actually complete it. And it is going to require a little bit more effort on your part because of that opposition. And when we look at this from the perspective of Mars, Mars is also in an opposition to Saturn. So while Mars is in the 11th house, it's about going after your goals. It's about meeting with people. It's about connecting with people and networking, especially in regard to business. It may mean you have to get out there and socialize a little bit. And the opposition to Saturn is basically saying it's not just about what you do. It's about what other people can bring to the table and kind of bring awareness to better enrich some of your talents and some of your projects. So learning to communicate and connect with people, I think, is a big theme in this next month. The pros are also the trines that you have to Neptune in the 5th house. So you're feeling romantic, creative, inspired, willing to kind of get outside of your comfort zone and maybe even travel. So if you're hoping to, plan a trip, go somewhere that you haven't been before, if you're wanting to apply for new courses or go back to school or start a new degree, this can be a wonderful time to do that as well. Just keep in mind, it's mind over matter with this particular moon. And the more that you can connect with other people who can kind of get you outside of your comfort zone, the easier this is going to be. The card that I get for you is the 8 of Pentacles. So that's working hard on your craft, honing that in. Workmanship, mastering your craft, focus, dedication, hard work, skill development, talent, high standards, commitment, and expertise. So I like this because that reminds me a lot of like the 9th house, the 10th house. It's like just getting really good at what you do and knowing a lot about it. And so, even like pro athletes need trainers, right? Like even the most successful people like need mentors. Even therapists have therapists. So I think something that you're going to learn this month is like there's no shame in going like I'm hitting a block here, like I need some support so I can get better in this area of my life. And I think for you it's something that you don't just know, it's something that you learn to believe, whether it's believing in yourself, believing in a project, believing that everything's going to work out and it's going to be okay, and being able to really kind of hone in on that. So it looks like there's a lot of work this month. Scorpio, ask for help. It will show up. Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Cancer in your natal 8th house. This is setting the stage for a fresh new start when it comes to your joint resources, but oftentimes it can be about things relating to healing, transformations emotionally, releasing and letting something go, and like processing intense emotions or sometimes even grief. Now, having, Cancer in the 8th house means that there is like a really sensitive side to you, but it is kind of hidden, and it might be that there are more secrets or privacy revolving around your home, revolving around family, and perhaps maybe you're going through some kind of transformation on the home front, right? And the 8th house can be other people's resources, like mortgages, what your partner's income is, what they can, pay in regard to their portion of rent, whether or not you're getting benefits from an employer. And the 8th house also has connections to taxes as well. So a new moon here means that there's more focus on other people's resources. It's like, what do other people have that I can have access to? But it can also mean that you're dealing with like tax or inheritance, related topics. At the time of this particular new moon, we're going to see it in opposition to Pluto in your 2nd house. And Pluto has recently retrograded back to your 2nd house, which tells me that there is some reevaluation of your financial situation, or reevaluation of your possessions, of your self-esteem. And likely there has been a lot of things that you have not seen coming that has kind of come down the line financially because Pluto rules your 12th house. So there is a building square between the nodes to Pluto in your 2nd house, which essentially means like you got to deal with a financial situation. Likely it's about finally kind of dealing with things that you've been afraid to ask about, talk about, uncover. If you've been afraid to finally find out what your credit score is, or if you've been afraid to finally find out how much money you owe for something, or finally like taking a look at the balance on a credit card, you might actually end up doing that, because it's about uncovering the fear and like getting to the core of it and coming up with a solution so you can have more emotional security. Applying for loans, applying for mortgages, borrowing, lending, that is definitely something that comes under the guise of a new moon in the 8th house. So there may be more topics, relating to that at this time. And Jupiter, your chart ruler at the time of the new moon, is hanging out in Taurus in your 6th house. Not exactly making aspects at this time. We just really see like the Jupiter-Saturn sextile that's still kind of lingering. And obviously, with this new moon that is in a sextile to Neptune in your 4th, a lot of you guys are having home changes, family issues. Some of you guys are leaving places that you've been living for a while. You're finding out that there's some kind of change with a relative, having to go back home, having to pay for things. I've heard a lot of people talking about water-related issues and insurance matters. And that can come up during this time as well. But it can also be just emotions that are coming up in regards to changes going on with your living situation and how you're navigating that, or changes going on with, women in the home, particularly like mothers, wives, sisters, daughters. That can be a huge theme at this time as well. But yeah, Jupiter's hanging out in the 6th house. So it's like there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of emphasis on busyness and health and schedules, and maybe you're just kind of like trying to wing it. You're like, I've got a lot of work, but in the background, there's this really heavy emotional thing going on with my family, or I know that I have to leave my house and I haven't found my next place yet, or, I'm working really hard to prove that I can, qualify to be able to get a loan, especially with Jupiter and Uranus in your 6th. A lot of you guys are self-employed. So, that's kind of the vibe of what's going on. Do not shy away from some of these financial related things. That's the advice that I would give you guys. We already had the full moon that happened in Capricorn, so now we're going into the new moon in Cancer. So maybe now it's about building up some of your guys' resources and savings now that there has been like a lot of money that's been going out, right? So let's take a look and let's see what the cards say for you. And the card that I get for you is the Wheel of Fortune. So definitely Jupiter is on your side. This is about good luck, fate, life cycles, destiny, a turning point, things changing for the better. Also unexpected events. I like the Wheel of Fortune because it does say like it or not, things are going to keep moving, and you can like roll with the punches and be looking at some of the events that are taking place right now as something that is for the best. Or you can kind of get wound up in not wanting to kind of let things go. And the truth is that, Cancer energy, they have amazing memories because they never forget the past. They can remember years ago what somebody said and what day it was and what color shirt they were wearing. So you got a lot of Cancer energy that you're not quite used to because you're fire. Between a new moon in Cancer in the 8th house and then trines also to Neptune and Saturn in your 4th. These Saturn transits, these Pisces transits are not easy. And when you have the trines going on, it's about tapping into those emotions and being able to process change. So if you're feeling a little moody, you're feeling a little grief, if you're feeling a little intense about some of the changes, just let it kind of flow through you, okay? Good luck, Sag. So we have now got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You are going to be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Cancer. This will be taking place in your natal 7th house of relationships. And, hey, 7th house is other people, right? So there's definitely more action going on with other people. If you happen to be a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising around, 23 to 25 degrees. Maybe you're going to be feeling this a little bit more intensely. I'm also looking at this from the perspective of, that day Pluto starts coming into a square with the nodes and the nodes change signs. So Cardinal squares are going to be really intense. We're watching planets come into Cancer that's enacting this cardinal square. So there's lots of action and new things setting up in relationships, which are prompting necessary changes in you because it's a reflective energy. The 7th is reflecting back to you. And we've got Pluto square the nodes, which means it's all about how you're embracing change on a personal or physical level and going deeper into your home, your emotions, your family, and you're releasing karma relating to work and career and things out in the world. You're like, I'm changing. How do I move through these changes? Well, partners are probably going to give you a whole lot of feedback here. You know, a new moon in the 7th house, it can be, you know, a fresh new start in an existing relationship. It can be you getting ready to get back out into the dating scene and meeting people again. You know, I like the sextiles from the 7th to the 5th because I do feel like there's a lot of room for dating, romance, love, commitments also, because Juno is kind of in the mix here in the sign of Cancer. So there can be lots of talk if you are in a committed relationship with that partner. If you're not, you're looking for one, you're hoping to find somebody who's like commitment oriented. And the sextile to the 5th house is about romance and love and also what you create with other people. So whether it's clients that you service or it's a partner and you're talking about expanding your family, that can also be a theme that can kind of come up with this. But you're going to see where the planets start to go into the later degrees of Cancer, it will oppose Pluto and it's going to challenge you. And it's going to be about whether or not you're willing to get out of your own way and embrace change. And it's going to square the South node and the North node. So partners are going to come in that are going to encourage you to make changes out in the world, to let them kind of step in and partner and work with you to help you get on the path of being able to kind of build a home or be there for you more so emotionally. 7th house can be therapists, it can be counselors, it can be your astrologer, it can even be about your relationship that you have to, you know, a parent or to a family member because it's in the sign of Cancer. But I would be watching the oppositions in the days to follow because there is definitely going to be a huge turning point between you and somebody who's either in your life or in your family that's, you know, putting the pressure on you to make some kind of change. Now, at the time of the new moon, we're going to have Saturn that is in Pisces. It's hanging out in your 3rd house. It's not really making any aspects, but we are still picking up a slight sextile to Jupiter. So right now you're kind of reevaluating, how do I communicate? What do I think? What's important to me? What do I have to say? Where do I speak up? Where do I say nothing at all? And where does that kind of help me expand when it comes to happiness and joy and creativity and also children? I could see some of you guys like working more on like online businesses or websites, blogs, or other things where you're showing some of your creative endeavors. And so this might be a good time right around this new moon, after this new moon, to get ready to like promote new services or connect with other people and start telling other people what you're doing. That's also going to be a huge theme as you're coming into the fall. If you remember that early October date I gave you, when Mars and the South Node come together and they square this, likely you're going to find that if relationships can't be mended, if you're not getting along with your boss, if you're not liking what you're doing for work, this will be a time when you're getting ready to make some really significant changes. And it can also be a turning point in regards to some of your relationships here as well. But for the most part, set intentions in regards with this new moon to be able to better connect with other people, and be open also to constructive criticism, or be open to letting other people in and letting other people partner with you and love you, Cap. Let's see what the cards say for you. Oof, I have the 7 of Swords, drama. So this can be about betrayal, deception, getting away with something, theft, dishonesty, sneakiness, strategy. You know, generally this is a card that's about like, oh, somebody's up to something. They're not being so honest here, which is interesting because the sun and the moon in the 7th house, it can talk about open enemies. Like it can talk about people who come in that you're like, no, never mind. That you're not really a good partner. Or like this is not a healthy relationship. And Pluto in your sign can be about your intuition kicking in as to whether or not you can trust other people. But there can also be other people accusing you of that because of Pluto in your 1st house, and other people becoming very emotional in regards to the fact that you're like, give me some space. I'm not doing anything. Just this is too intense for me. And then there is some kind of back and forth about whether or not there's like honesty. You know, that's also going to be, I think, tied into the incoming Venus retrograde in your 8th house, where there is definitely a major transformation in regards to relationships and joint resources. But if there are problems that are going on, you know, at the time of this particular new moon, it's probably going to kind of play out for a couple of days. So honesty really is the best policy. And if you're getting the impression that some people don't have your best interests at heart, be very mindful of how you communicate, especially with Mercury square Jupiter. There can be conversations and things that are kind of blown out of proportion. Okay. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be having a new moon in the sign of Cancer in your natal 6th house. And this is all about health, organization. It is about being of service. It's about getting busy, getting things done. It can be about your office space as well as your pets or your health. And having a new moon here is a wonderful time to set new intentions revolving around health and routines. Okay, so if you're like, I am putting my clothes away, they're not sitting in the hamper anymore, or I am finally going to reorganize my closet, I'm finally going to, you know, go and look for a new job or a new office space, anything like that. This is kind of like the new moon that you do that with. Obviously, the moon rules Cancer, so going through the 6th house, it's going to be about wanting to kind of remedy things. So for you, you know, the sextiles that it's making to Uranus, which is your chart ruler, is very much about like healing and organizing and cleaning up the home, right? So that's quite literally what it's about. And how there are changes that are going on with you on the home front or emotionally or in regards to your family. And this is about like how you can be of service, which is funny because, you know, the 6th house is service and Cancer can be the family. So you may find yourself, you know, running around, wanting to organize, wanting to, you know, get people to appointments, you know, taking care of the dog. It can be, you know, watering your relatives' plants, house sitting, things like that can kind of be going on. Not a bad aspect, honestly, to Uranus, because it's saying that you're going to have a change of schedule and things are going to be kind of shifting. And maybe it's like you finding ways to make your home a little bit better, you know, maintained or well run, so you can kind of like not feel like you're constantly like, you know, getting stuff done around the house. So problem solving or bringing someone in to help you do this is important. Obviously, you know, Uranus and Saturn rule your chart. We're not really seeing aspects to the moon. We do see an opposition to Mars. So Mars in the 8th house of other people's resources, making an opposition to your Saturn can have people going, you know, can you pay me? Can I have my allowance? You know, hey, this bill is due. And you're like, ugh, okay, I've got it. And you're probably feeling a little bit more pressed financially, and you may be feeling that all the way up through the Mercury retrograde and some of the oppositions that we're going to have in the fall. And then on the flip side, you know, like I said, Uranus is in a sextile to this moon, so you're feeling like you can be of service and make change, or some of the changes that are going on in your emotional life is as a result of changes in your home or your physical space. And Uranus is also kind of slightly picking up a sextile to Neptune at the same time. So, you know, water, earth, water, it's basically saying there's lots changing with your resources and your self-esteem that's having an impact on your home, how you express yourself, where you live. And now it's about finding ways to kind of bring that all together, right? Now you got a bit of a reprieve. Pluto's retrograde. It's close to your ascendant, but it's now coming into a square with the nodes. And so all of the signs are going to be experiencing this grand cardinal cross. For you, it's more about how your emotional health is actually affecting your, you know, your spiritual health, your sleep patterns, your ability to kind of feel like you can get work done. So I'd really encourage you to set goals in regards to healthier routines, so that way you're not feeling like the pinch as much. It's not going to be as impactful for you, some of the squares, as it would be if it were in your sign. But you had this the last couple of weeks and months while Pluto was in Aquarius. You were already starting to kind of feel that square. Now you're kind of passing the torch to the mutable signs. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what the cards say. And I wonder, with some of those squares to the North Node in the 3rd, if this is going to be about communication that you have to have with a sibling in regards to a health matter with a parent. Oh, the card that I get is the 2 of Cups. Okay, that's great. Support, right? Support from other people, relationships, partners, working together. This can be about, you know, coming together and unifying, mutual attraction, connection, respect, close bonds, joining forces. And yes, it can be about relationships. So maybe focusing on a renewal of relationships, right? With your colleagues. It can be a relationship with your gym, with your doctor, you know, anything like that. Finding more balance in some of these relationships with people who can kind of help you. And I also think that it is possible that it's talking about like finding where there's imbalances in relationships, and maybe they might present themselves to you, which would make sense with this Venus retrograde that's getting ready to happen in the 7th, where if you're noticing these imbalances and you're like, this is stressing me out, I'm not feeling like I'm getting the support that I need from this person or this dynamic, it's affecting me, you'll have the Venus retrograde in this next month to kind of reevaluate that and kind of suss that out, right? Good luck, Aquarius. And finally, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. So you'll be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Cancer at 24 degrees in your natal 5th house. So if you are a Pisces sun, moon, or rising, anywhere around 23 to 25 degrees, you're going to experience a trine to your ascendant, sun, or moon, as well as Neptune. So you're under a Neptune transit right now if you're right around there. And you might be feeling like this new moon in the 5th house is just very romantic, very creative, giving you the opportunity to focus on what you love, what you want to grow, what you want to nurture, right? So the moon's at home in its own sign, and when the sun and the moon come together, it's planting a new seed. So for those of you guys who are creative, new creative projects can come from this. If you perform, new performances and inspiration can come from this. Definitely, I feel like there's a lot of room for romance here, and a lot of people that, you know, may come in over the next 6 months, or new things that you might kind of like fall in love with can transpire, especially with trines to Neptune, because it's about your vision, your desire, your inspiration, and how you're allowing that vision to kind of come to life, because the 5th house is about something that, you know, becomes physical. So, yeah, I like this for dating. I like this for like romance and a date night. I also like the fact that Neptune is in harmony, as is Jupiter. I mean, you're starting to lose the sextile, but we have Jupiter that's sextiling this by sign, and Jupiter is sextiling Saturn. So a lot of you guys are putting your creative talents to work, whether it's writing, speaking, you know, creating, crafting, something that you do with your hands. If you play instruments, this can be really wonderful as well. But this is also the moon in the 5th house of children. So some of you guys might be thinking long and hard about, who do I love? What do I love? Where are my relationships going? What am I building? And if you're thinking about having a child or expanding your family, that can definitely be a theme here with this new moon being in the 5th house. Now, like I said, you know, Neptune's in a trine, and then we've got Jupiter, and, you know, Jupiter's also doing some things. It's in a square with Mercury. So it seems as if like you're really adamant in communicating that you want some new thing, or maybe you want to move, or maybe you're learning a new skill. And it seems like it's like overwhelming, or like information overload, especially because Mercury rules your home base. So it's almost like, I want to move, but nothing is organized yet. Or like, I want to go somewhere, but I don't have the time, or haven't figured out my schedule yet. So part of the challenge maybe that you're going to have with this new moon might be about coming up with a schedule and finding ways to kind of like, you know, get to your goals and make your goals happen. You're also going to be experiencing Mars in opposition to Saturn in your sign. So there can be this feeling of you having to tell some people, no, not today, not ever, don't come back, you know, maybe later, I can't right now, because you're more so kind of tapping into your needs, your desires. But when the 5th and the 7th house get activated, there is more opportunity for romance, meeting people, love, and the potential of relationships. But that's a storyline that's going to go until like, you know, September, where we're going to see retrogrades and oppositions, and you have to really ask yourself, is this love, right? Is this good enough for me? Does this person cut it? Or, you know, is it better off to kind of be alone and not kind of dive into relationships because people are really passionate and they're really adamant, knowing when to say, no, I'm not going to make that mistake again, right? That can definitely come up. But for right now, you know, use this new moon to really romanticize something, be creative, find ways to really express yourself and have fun, even if that means it's something that you need to do at home, or if you're focusing more on connecting with your children, making time for that, and making time for like a little bit of like make-believe. The card that I got for you is the Hierophant, which is interesting because this card does deal with tradition. It is connected to Taurus, where we are seeing sextiles at the time of this particular moon. This is connected to spiritual wisdom, religious belief, tradition, what is conventional. It's about education, knowledge, conformity, and belief systems, right? So Jupiter is in that sign, and we're going to see, you know, some sextiles to Jupiter and Uranus. So there's a lot of like you learning how to communicate and express what you believe, what you've been learning. Maybe this is about a new hobby that is, you know, starting as a result of like you learning something. I've seen a number of Pisces risings that have been learning tarot, or they've been learning astrology with these transits in the 3rd house. And now some of you guys are like, hey, I think this is like more than just a hobby. Like this is a thing, you know, can I make something out of this? Or can I make money, you know, selling my paintings or selling my drawings? Can I be a professional performer? Some of these things might start to kind of come up for you. And I think that it's all about the structure. So what I like about Saturn in your sign right now is that you're trying to become a professional at whatever it is that you're doing. We're really mastering your dreams and wanting to be seen as somebody who is an authority on the matter. The more that you're really reevaluating that and like leaning into you changing and being open to continuing to learn and communicate and express yourself, the more likely you're going to see some of these things fully kind of blossom, especially the second half of this year, as we're coming into the full moon in Cancer, but that won't be until Capricorn season. Good luck. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Pisces. And for everybody else, thank you guys so much for watching this video on the new moon in Cancer. Let me know, is it conjunct a personal planet or angle for you? Is it going to be your birthday? What are you excited about in regards to these transits? And how are you going to be ritualizing this new moon? As always, your likes, comments, shares, and subscribes really help the channel grow. If you want to support my work, you can join my memberships. You can also join me for my donation-based readings, which I do on Fridays. I will be here tomorrow doing live readings. They're going to be tarot readings. We'll put the link in the community tab if you want to sign up for that. And yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of manifests here. So until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy this new moon. Happy moonifesting. And I will see all of you guys next time. Take care.